In the last episode, we talked about how to know exactly what your customer cares about. This is the key to knowing definitely how effective your messaging strategy will be before you put resources behind it. Because throwing thousands behind an ad that uses messaging your high intent leads could care less about is an expensive lesson. And it starts with asking the right questions to understand the right needs that allow you to find the right language. This cannot be skipped, and many of you are trying to scale a broken message, one that doesn't account for or speak to your high intent leads' known desires. If that's you and you're not sure what their needs are, pause this episode. And the first step is to go back to episode number 43 and listen to how to get people to buy from you faster, where we break down the 3 levels of intent within your audience. This will help you understand that targeting your high intent leads requires a completely different language and message to help support them in making buying decisions versus speaking to low intent. And the second step is to do the research. In the last week's episode, I shared what it means to use what we call brain tapping, AKA how you do the research that allows you to understand exactly what your high intent lead wants and cares about. Because, like Benjamin Franklin famously said, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And your research is preventing you from marketing sales and offers that don't meet the needs and desires of your clients. So, with that knowledge in hand, it's about knowing how to talk about what they care about in a way that activates a decision. This is the prescription to speak so people buy. So, let's get real. Now, hey, and welcome back to the Business Real Talk. On this week's episode, we're going to talk about how to actually create messaging that speaks to high level, high intent clients who are ready to buy without convincing. Now, almost daily, people will come to me and say, Naz, I don't know why my marketing isn't working to reach high intent leads. They'll say things like, I just don't think I have high intent leads in my audience, or maybe I just need to generate more leads, and maybe I just need a whole new audience altogether. And many of them will spend so much money on trying to fix what they think is going on. But we need to start with the foundation of how you can actually bring in ready buyers without pressure, without more offers, without more leads, and without chasing them down. And it starts with a very simple understanding. One that if you've been around here for a minute, you've heard me say before, but I'll say it again and again and again. We are in the business of decisions. If you are running a business, then your success is ultimately linked to how often and how quickly people make decisions. This is important because when you understand this, it changes everything about the strategy. You're no longer chasing attention. The content you create isn't trying to get people to look at you. It's meant to help people make a decision that you are who they need to spend time with. When you get on a sales call, you're not focusing on trying to get them to see things your way. You're helping them see things their way so that they can make a decision in their own right. And here's a line I need you to write down and remember going forward, and a little test that you can run all of your messaging against to see if you're actually speaking to people who want to make buying decisions. It's not about forcing a decision, but accelerating it. Let me repeat that. It's not about forcing a decision, but accelerating it. Now, forcing a decision is where 98% of marketing lives. It's filled to the brim with convincing language, pushy sales tactics, and churning through leads and strategies just to stay top of mind and take a large quantity of leads and turn them into a small handful of clients. And we see it in our messaging all of the time. And it creeps in with words like, are you willing to be stuck in the same place you are in 6 months? That's oozing with the gaslighting messaging meant to force people to feel bad about not being ready. And it's running rampant in the seemingly nonchalant 5 reasons to run ads that you see all over your feed. It's marketing that's built with pressure and force in mind. It's a backwards way of doing things, one that has been the norm for decades, and one that leads to expensive ads that don't work because more leads that don't buy is just an expensive email list. And it's the reason that so many businesses end up shutting down their doors because nobody wants to feel like they have talents and gifts, but they have to shove it down people's throats in order for them to buy. Not here, not anymore. That's not how we operate. Master this, and people will beg to work with you. Just like my client Erica, who went from working her ass off running launches every 4 weeks to a booked out one-on-one program. Or Anne, who felt like getting people to pay for her $1,500 program was an uphill battle to people happily paying her $5K for her group program. There's a science behind how it works, and it starts with understanding DNA. What I mean specifically is what we call high intent buying DNA. See, knowing that everyone has intent in your audience at different levels allows us to understand that our goal is to speak to those with the highest level of intent. It makes sense, right? Just like when you walk into Sephora, the staff knows that if someone says that they're just there to browse, they're not going to try and pressure them to buy a foundation and mascara that they have zero intent or desire to purchase. Instead, they're taught to help people who are trying to decide between the NARS foundation and the Fenty one to help them see what's the best fit for their skin type, which means what we need to do is understand what actually drives intent. And after 20 years in marketing, I spent decades understanding consumer psychology and more specifically, what drives decisions so you don't have to. And this is how I created what I call high intent buying DNA. Now, D stands for desire, N stands for need, and A stands for action. Understanding these three components are what will allow you to know how to nail the messaging that's going to speak to your high level clients who are ready to buy without convincing. So we're going to start with speaking to desire. Now, 6 years ago, my husband and I decided that we wanted to put some roots down. We lived in a beautiful community with neighbors that we loved, at least on one side. The other side was a different story. And we lived in an amazing school district that was just 20 miles from the beach. Things were great. But we had this vision, right? We longed for more land to raise chickens, a garden, and more space just to relax. And my husband, he lived for the idea of having an incredible view, maybe even of the ocean. Now, we had this vision in our mind of what it looked like, and we couldn't get it out of our heads. So we went from looking at houses around the country when we got bored to taking a scouting trip to Colorado with us and our three kids. Now, it was Memorial Day 6 years ago that after months of searching, we found the nearly perfect house and made the drive to go check it out. It had almost everything we wanted. All that was missing was a pool. Now, we were fueled by this big vision, and that meant that we could see what we wanted and we were willing to do the work to get that. So we bought the house even before it hit the open market. This is what desire driven buying looks like. It's about knowing what they want and they're willing to do the work and they take the risks to achieve that. Now, we took the risk to buy a house and build a pool, something neither of us had any understanding of. Why? Because we were committed to a vision. We didn't buy a house with 4 bedrooms and 4,000 square feet. We bought a dream of living on a farmhouse with a view that our whole family could love coming home to as a soft landing after a long day. Your high intent buyers are fueled by their desires. That's why they're turned off by pain point and struggle language. Example, Curio, a journalism app that turns perfectly curated content from leading publications into narrated audio you can listen to at any time, didn't sell an app. What they did instead was they sold a desire that people had while using that app. Their ad read, "Become the most interesting person in the room." Now, imagine instead that their ad had spoken to the struggle, something like, "Stop being left out of the latest news." It would have spoken to a completely different level of person, someone who was fueled to solve a pain. This subtle but powerful shift of understanding and speaking to desire changes who we speak to and how we activate and accelerate their decisions, which leads us to the N in DNA, which is speaking to need. Now, understanding that high intent leads have a strong level of desire means that we now understand that they're highly motivated. And highly motivated people are people who seek out solutions. They want someone who can give them a level of clarity that makes the right solution crystal clear. That means no digging. They don't want to try and put the pieces together for themselves. They want it to easily make sense. So remember, highly motivated and high intent leads value their time above all else. It's their most coveted asset. This informs us how we actually address both their physical needs as well as their messaging needs. Now, a few years ago, I walked into Ulta fed up that my skin had gotten so dry that my makeup was getting into the lines and seemed so cakey. Now, up until that point, I had spent thousands on different concealers, foundations, and setting powders. It was so frustrating to say the least. And I just wanted to feel confident in front of the weekly live streams that I was doing without seeing my makeup look patchy, which only made me feel distracted and uncomfortable. Now, I walked into Ulta and stood staring and trying on different concealers. And this associate came up to me and asked, "Can I help you?" I blurted out, "I just need a freaking concealer and powder that works. And I'm sick of trying all these different ones that just still look horrible." So the associate looked at me and started asking questions. After getting the information, she turned and smiled and said, "It's not your makeup, it's your skincare." She continued to explain that makeup would continue to look cakey if I wasn't hydrating my under eyes and using a firming cream to help tighten up the area around my eyes. Now, within minutes, I felt relief and I spent $400 within 20 minutes and I couldn't have been happier. See, I was not the expert. And for months, I had come into these makeup stores and asked for the right makeup only to feel frustrated that it wasn't what I actually needed. But what I really needed was clarity to understand and clearly see what I actually needed. Now, by simply identifying the need and addressing the need clearly, I could act, AKA make a purchasing decision. Same thing goes in business. Once we understand the big vision desire, it's our job to address that need. Now, one of the biggest ways to ensure that your messaging is speaking to that high level of client is to answer the how and not the why. Let me give you an example. Instead of saying, here's the 5 reasons that you need a professional profile, this messaging clearly is speaking to people who are not ready to buy because they're unaware of the desire and the need. Instead, we speak to the desire and create clarity around the need. Here's an example: how to use these 3 strategic posts to turn your professional profile into an automated funnel in just 7 days. See, now I'm addressing the desire of having an automated funnel and creating clarity around the need, 3 strategic posts for my professional profile, while also speaking to their biggest concern, which is time. So now that we understand the desire and the need, let's talk about action. Now, high intent leads have been around the block. They're people who've already been in motion. These are the action takers. They are doing whatever they can to try and create the outcome they desire. They have paid for the courses, read the books, hired support, and they're doing the work, or at least what they think they need to be doing to get results. They don't stay stuck or wallow in their frustrations. They keep moving. Like a speed train barreling down the tracks, they won't be stopped. They may slow down, but they continue to pick up speed. And how this actually informs us is that we need to learn how to speak to the gap, AKA address what's missing for them. Let me give you an example where we're not addressing action. It would be saying something like how to use probiotics to increase your gut health. Yeah, I've tried that and it didn't work. And or I don't want to use probiotics because the only way I've been told that it works is if I give up my favorite foods. Now, instead, when I address the gap, I eliminate all of those thoughts and make it so simple for someone to make a purchasing decision. So here's an example: the reverse probiotic that cures your gut imbalance in 30 days without giving up your favorite foods. Now, what this allows us to do is that we are now speaking to and identifying that motion that they're already in, allowing them to understand that we understand them at a level that other people don't, and we've created a solution that solves for the gap. Now, what I want you to understand is we've spoken to that high intent DNA and you understand what it really looks like. So, now let me share with you how we use what we call momentum messaging as a proven way to combine these 3 pieces together and speak to and move your high intent leads. Now, the key formula behind momentum messaging is the DNA method that we just shared, as well as sharing your methodology. Now, what we understand is who we're speaking to is high intent leads. How we're speaking to them is addressing their DNA, and why we're the solution is our methodology. When we put these 3 pieces together, each piece of the messaging creates a singular touch that converts. That means that we're no longer stringing things together in hopes that eventually at some point they buy. We stack the pieces together in one singular piece where you can actually address those 3 biggest questions. The results are that people are able to buy within hours, and one post equals booked calls and conversions. Your sales email has you close 2 clients straight in the DMs and 5 people book on your calendar. Now, the reason why this works so well is because it combines the 3 things that our brain looks for initially in order to determine whether or not this is something to further spend time on. So when we're able to address all 3 of those things in one fell swoop, our brain gets the reassurance that signals excitement because it all just clicks into place. It's why the first piece of the puzzle when we take our clients through the easiest method is exactly this, so they can create an ROI in just under 30 days. And it starts with knowing how to win the market. Now, it's not about competing for attention, it's about making your competition irrelevant and creating inbound demand where clients are chasing you and happily paying without any hesitation. This happens by identifying the 3 biggest factors. Number 1 is high intent targeting, number 2 is momentum messaging, and number 3 is innovative positioning. This helps you develop your innovative gap methodology so that you can target ready buyers and showcase your innovative approach as the only solution to your high-end buyers. This step alone allows my clients to 5 to 10x their prices and have clients lining up to work with them. Now, the next step is that we automate conversions by getting leads to sell themselves using the Netflix effect. Now, this is done through our bingeable sales system. Our innovative approach focuses on accelerating the natural decision process through our proprietary sales psychology technique, while combining that with the power of bingeability. This allows you to make saying yes the only logical solution. This step turns cold leads and lurkers into hot, paying clients within hours or days, so you can focus on serving instead of convincing leads. Now, lastly, is our pure profit strategy. This is where we leverage proactive programming to set your clients up for world class results at scale so that you can leverage your two best and most profitable client sources: retention and referrals. This is the power behind the EasyS method and why we've helped over 452 clients be able to take this and create a business that allows them to thrive. Now, if you want to take the next steps in learning how you can leverage the EasyS method within your business, I want to invite you to book a call directly with me. On this call, you and I will look at your acquisition strategy and I'll highlight for you exactly where the biggest opportunities are, where you may be leaving hundreds of thousands of dollars on the table. And from there, I'll show you exactly how we can apply the EasyS method within your business. So if you're ready to book that call, head on over to easyesleads.com/call. But if you want to learn a little bit more about our method and how it actually works to use the Netflix effect to get leads to sell themselves, head on over to easyesleads.com to check out our free mini series where we show you exactly how this bingeable sales system turns even the coldest leads into hot, ready buyers in a matter of hours or days. And as always, we love and appreciate when you rate, subscribe, and share this episode with a friend so we can help them turn their message into a movement. But until next time, here's to keeping it real.